Learn Accounting Podcast by Professor Accounting. Welcome to you all for tuning in. What I want to do in this podcast is an answer solution to a particular accounting question from one of the AQA textbooks that A-level students are using. On the screen here you can see that the topic is manufacturing accounts. This is the textbook in question is A2 Accounting for AQA. I believe it's the second edition, and this is 9.4. This is part A of the question, and the question is surrounding Jacqui King PLC, a fictitious name, we'll obviously say. So we have to produce, and again, forgive me if I pause throughout this, everyone watching, if you are wanting an answer to this, or if you remember doing this question, and you want to check your answer, there's no answers in the back of the book for this question. Only certain answers are given in the back of the book, so quite a few students ask me to put together an answer. Sometimes I do perhaps then answer with a mark scheme as well in terms of how it will be graded. So do forgive me if I do look at the book as well as I answer this, because I'll need to refer back to some of the numbers and information to make sure I answer it fully correctly. Again, you need to check your answers if you do it, and if there are any discrepancies, if there's any differences, then let me know, and I'll put you right as to maybe where you went wrong, and or maybe the correct approach, because I'll be showing you the correct answer. So let's look at the question. We have to. This was a past paper actually. This was AQA 2002. It says, so prepare the manufacturing account for the year end 30 November 2001 for Jacqui King PLC, selecting from the information. So the test here is to make sure you're using the correct information that belongs where it should go to. They want you to show the totals for the raw materials consumed, prime costs, and the total production costs. That's all for part A. Part B is explain the term royalties, which obviously is a clue that's going to be in here as well. So, and it's obviously in the list of balances anyway. So let's start off. Think of the layout. You must have learned the layout by now if you're doing this kind of topic, or if you're still a bit unsure of this, then we always start off with a famous type of stock, which is not finished goods. We always start off with the raw materials. So I'm going to use IS standards. I'm going to use the terms for that inventory, that is, for stock and so on. Obviously I want you to try and use them, which will help for Unit 3 if you haven't done so already. Okay, let's start with this. So we've got, in this case we'll start with the opening. Again, I've got to write this, so do be patient if you've already done this. You can obviously, with the wonderful use of technology, you can skip the podcast if you absolutely need to get the full answer. I can't fit it on the screen, unfortunately, in full. I'll be doing it moving down the screen. So, opening inventory. It's an N. Let's see if it gets in there. Opening inventory. Raw materials. I have to write a little bit slower to make sure somebody try and make the writing tidier. Okay, so it says opening stock is, well, of raw materials, that is 47,600. We then, if you want to do the arithmetic, you can say add, because we know we've got to add purchases. You can do that if you want, it's not essential. Okay, purchases. Okay, purchase of raw materials, make clear. Okay, so make sure you're using the information that's relevant. The purchases there was 498,000. Try and keep, when you do it, try your best to keep it in the units, tens and hundreds and thousands and so on, just to make it easier. Okay, it's fine, that'll be net purchases, but you don't have to give it a name. What are you going to add them together? It's going to be 545, isn't it? And then the 600 on the end. Use a calculator if you're not sure of the maths. Or you can use arithmetic like me. Some of the times you've got to use calculators. You just don't want to make a mistake. Okay, then you've got to take away. So you got less. I'm just use less because it's a shorter word. Okay, you got the closing inventory. of raw materials. There's a lot to write, I know, but it's because you have to write this because this is the typical layout and they want it to be formalized. Okay, closing inventory. This is given as 50,900, I believe. Yes, it is. I tend to use brackets just to show the parentheses, just to show the deduction. So take that away. Okay, 50,000 off that's 5,000 off 700. If I just move this down first, and then while I'm doing the maths, this down, we're going to get there. It's definitely be 700 on the end. 700 at 494. Okay, 494. Okay, use your calculator if you're not sure. Sometimes I'll have to. I think there's coming up. There's a few calculations I need to use a calculator for. Right. Next bit. So, what is that answer called? What is the 494,700? Well, that is if you net off by working this out. If you net off all the raw materials, the opening, the purchasing, the closing, well, that is your cost of raw materials consumed. Cost of raw materials used. Cost of raw materials consumed, which is what it asked for. Okay, so I think that was one of the first certainly titles that was asked for. That was asked for in the question, so that's where clearly marks will be attributed to for working that out. We then need to look at, and the structure here is, I mean, if I'm not going to go through a full structure with you, it's just the question is what I want to go through. You should have learned the theory by now, and obviously if you're doing this topic, if not, look at some of the podcasts I've put on. At some point, depending on the timing now, there will be some relating to manufacturing accounts. So I'll have a look and see what's on there currently. The direct costs we need to think about. So we've got direct labour in this case, and if direct labour, this question is, and there's an element of apportionment, which is where we attribute the cost to relevant cost centres. So we need to, in this case, the labour value they give you is the factory labour costs, and there is direct costs and indirect brought together. So they're expecting you to apportion that 2/3 direct and 1/3 indirect. So it is the direct cost that belongs here on the next line. So we've got the total cost of the labour was 959,400, and what is it? 2/3. 2/3 belongs. So we find 2/3. So you can do this times 2/3. Or if you want to, you can do again. I'll do the bracket. You can do the 9,5. I'm just going to show you the other way of writing it. You can do all of that. I should have left some space. Let's just go back. You divide it by 3, just to show you. So 959, and divide that by 3, and times that by 2 is the same thing. So that's the same thing as over here. Just obviously, in all fairness, most of the times if you've got a scientific calculator, you can do 2/3 on the calculator without doing 2 divide 3. So what do we get there? We'll calculate it for that, I think. So divide by 3 times by 2. What do we get? It's going to be 600 on the end. 639, and then 600. So it's a positive value because it's a further cost. Yes, we've got royalties. The royalties are stated as 17,000. Okay, so therefore if we sum those values, if we add these 3 together, they're going to get, that's all we have. There's nothing else that belongs in there. Again, I mean, you've got office salaries, you've got overheads, depreciation. They don't belong there at this point. Prime cost, which is again an important title, name and value, and that's what it asks for. So if we add these together, what do we get? 7 6 is 13. If we get 300 on the end, if we get 974, I think 151, you get 151. On the end 6, it's going to be 11, so it's 1. So again, just add them to your calculator, do how you're doing it. Looks alright, yeah, 1,151,300. That's prime cost. Okay, then we've got, moving down, now is the time we look at the overheads of the factory. So if you label that, typically we label that factory overheads. Okay, so what are the overheads that are given in this case? Well, we've only got a couple. We haven't got as many as you probably might think. We've got the labour, so indirect labour, and remember the apportionment. So that was the. Do it this way. You can just, I suppose, you can take the total, the 959,400 minus the 639,600 if you want. But the true way, the typical way, is doing this, and it's 1/3. 1/3 is indirect, so you work that out, or you can do the same way. I'm not going to write it again, it just takes too long. But it's 1/3 of the total value. What's that? 3 into 959,400. It's going to be 319,800. So just look at my layout. I'm going to use, obviously I have to use, in this case, there we go, my second column, the first column there, that is, because I'm going to add up. Think of this as like the overheads in the TP&L in terms of structure only. That is the layout. And typically we add up all of these in the middle column. Well, there's only 2 columns. There's the first column, and then we bring the total to the far column. So we get there 319,800. It's only 1/3, remember. Obviously, we then got depreciation. And the depreciation is, it's very well labelled. So you got depreciation as of factory. What's it say? Factory machinery. It's given as 48,000. What's it gone there? Yes, I thought it was a bigger value. 48,000. Okay. And the last thing we've got, it does say there factory overheads excluding the direct labour costs. So you've got factory overheads. No need to write factory again. You've already got the title factory overheads. So overheads. In this case, was that value 548. Okay, that's it. Add these together, these 3 values. What do we get if we do add them up? 800 at the end. 800. 816. That's 27. What do you get? The 4819. 319,4857. 816. So that's 15,915. Okay, so next step is just to look at the totals that we've got here so far. So we've got up here, let's move up a slightly bit. So we've got the prime costs here, and then we've got the this is the overheads. So in this case, remember, we're building up cost. So this is prime cost plus factory overheads. So we get an increased value. So we add them together, and let's be careful with the maths. A3 is it's 11. So you have 2 million. I might need a calculator for that. 2 million. So that's going to be 0, 6, 7. Yep. And use the commas as well. 67, and it's going to be 100. Okay, so use that obviously for your calculations. Okay, what else we got in this question? I've got the work in progress. Yep, given work in progress. Good. So we've got opening. Inventory of work in progress. Do write it in full rather than just write work in progress. don't just write WIP. Only do that in your notes. If you're doing a formal answer, write the full title, full name. Opening stock or work in progress is 23,000. What do we do with that value then? If we've got this situation, do we add the opening or close the opening, and what do we do with the closing? Well, the situation here is you're thinking about what relates to this accounting period. So you started with opening work in progress. So obviously that's going to be used up first in the factory as to what is to produce the finished goods of whatever they're making in this case. So the opening will be added, and then the closing work in progress is incomplete products, it's incomplete finished goods. Therefore, if there's no complete goods, then they were not part of the cost of manufacturing, so they're excluded. They'll be included in the next accounting period. So opening. So if you want to do that, you can do the add. Sometimes you just do an arrow or a plus or a minus. Okay, we add the opening inventory in this case, which is 23,000. It's good. So do that. That's 7, 10, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 2,090,100. We take away the. So if you want to do less if you want. Closing inventory of work in progress. It's given to be 24,100. That can be taken away. 0, 0, 0. What did we get there? We got the 1s, you got 90, 80, 70, 66, and you've got 2, 0. So there's nothing, just get rid of that, nothing there for that one. So let's see what that will remove. Yes, it will. 20666, and is there anything else? No. So let's just tidy up the answer again. I do tend to find that layout is much more important for these accounts rather than say a normal trading account or income statement. This is very important in terms of layouts and lines. So 20666, well, that's the production cost. So you've got production. And it asks in the question, it says total production cost, so which is not less what it is, but production cost. Typically, I don't know why it's asked for total production cost. Really, maybe it's just trying to get you to think as to what you write. But production cost of goods completed. So it's more of an AQA way of doing this. I think the worked example they give you, they do call it that as well. Goods, obviously being obviously completed goods, the inventory that's produced the final products. So obviously netting off the work in progress is very important. So your answer is 20666, and obviously the full layout being the answer. I'm going to quickly look at B, just as don't obviously miss it out. Always an attempt. If you attempt a question, obviously complete it in full. I'll just write it down here. Just maybe if you want to see what I would write for B, I'm sure this would be in your book somewhere. But B is about. What's B about? Oh, explain the term royalties. So I suppose we can think about there. What do they want? Explain the term royalties. So royalties, something along the lines of. This is, well, in this case, I'm trying to relate it to this question. So in this question, it's actually a cost, isn't it? So this could be well, it depends who receives it, because the person who receives a royalty would, well, they get the royalty, we actually pay them the royalty. So it's a payment or a receipt, because obviously the business could receive a royalty from making the products. Payment or receipt, and why? mean, what is the purpose of a royalty? Well, I'm sure you all think about music straight away when you're manufacturing CDs, and for every CD that's sold, the artist will get a royalty, a fee, a percentage of the sale value of that CD, and so on. Or obviously the label will get a royalty as well for the rights of the artist. So essentially we're talking about patents and trademarks and copyright. So a receipt for use of patented or copyrighted material. Obviously not material in the sense of manufacturing. So, and I mean, again, how many marks for that, I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. It is an explain question. So if you're explaining this, I mean, personally, if it's a part B, then it should relate to part A. So in this case, when we had royalties up here, 17,000. Obviously, in this case, this is a payment. Well, yes, we are paying. It's our cost. So you could emphasise. You could say a payment of £17,000 was made in this case. I mean, it's straightforward stuff, but maybe they want to relate it to this business. But that's essentially what a royalty is: payment or receipt for use of patented or copyright material. So, I mean, I suppose I'll give you another example of it. The one that also springs to mind is franchise. If you do business studies, there's the franchise, many franchises, namely one famous fast food restaurant. When you undertake the franchise, you pay a large amount of money for setup, and then once you get started and you make your sales and your profits, then a percentage of the profits will go back to the franchise. You've got franchisee, franchisor, and the franchise. It goes back to the owner of the rights, because you're using their brand, their logos, and the whole product essentially to make money. So you pay a royalty for that. Okay, so I am going to do a few more of these, but I'm going to do them in different podcasts, just to break down the podcast into shorter bursts. That is it for that question. Hopefully you found it useful, everyone watching, and if you are interested in further obviously work solutions, in this case the answers, I'm sure you all do want answers. These are only given, just a minute, again I'll just mention this, these are only given if you have done the question or attempted the question. I don't want this to be used as maybe for you to provide answers to teachers or your lecturers as your work, as to here's your answer. I really hope you are not cheating yourself in the subject, and that you are attempting the question yourself as best you can, and then checking your work with this answer. At least attempt the question. If you can't do it all, because it is a relatively harder topic, then obviously do try your best. Seek guidance from your teacher, your lecturer, your tutor, whoever, because you should be able to produce something along the lines of this. This is by no means now, well, it is to some extent an exam question, but I think right now there is a little bit more than just what we've just done there for harder questions. So please do use these in the correct way to check your work. Well, I want to thank you for stopping by, and again, hopefully this was useful. I'll see you next time for another podcast with further answers to questions set.